Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. This episode of the Profit Answer Man podcast is brought to you by SMBpodcastnetwork.com. The network is a collection of podcasts and shows from around the internet which focus on bringing you interviews with amazing guests who share actionable advice, ideas, and information for small and medium-sized business owners and entrepreneurs. Visit www.smbpodcastnetwork.com to find more great shows and easily subscribe to be notified of new episodes. It's a great way to discover quality content. If you've discovered us via the network, then I hope you enjoy today's show and will consider subscribing directly so you never miss our episodes. The money doesn't flow until the customer buys. In order for that to happen, you need a sales system. That's our topic for today. I wanted to chat about this because it's an area business owners struggle with. Between hiring expensive sales reps that don't produce to having an allergy to the sales process. The reality is this is how we make money. And so you need to do it or find someone and train them to do it for you. Sales shouldn't be difficult. It's really about finding the people you can help and then showing them how you solve their problems. When you do that well, they throw money at you. Today's guest is Corey Berrier, the sales CEO, and he has over 25 years of experience training individuals and teams on high-performance sales processes. The Sales CEO is a boutique coaching firm specializing in sales development with a focus on ADHD. Using his ADHD superpower, Corey's developed systems and processes that allow business owners to maximize employee experience and revenue. He uses a proprietary system to guide businesses to higher sales results, focusing on every aspect of the process with a hands-on approach and feedback throughout the entire process, so you get results faster. Let's meet Corey. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Corey Berrier. It's great to have you join us.
Thank you, brother. Nice to be here.
Can you share a little bit about yourself and about your business?
Sure. So my name is Corey Berrier. I am the sales CEO. I work with small to medium-sized businesses, dramatically reduced closing time and the cost of acquisition of new business.
And when you reduce the cost of acquisition of new business, your profits go up. And we like that.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
So let's talk about it, because you say you're the sales for the CEO, and a lot of CEOs hate sales. I mean, some of them don't mind it. I find that they fall into two camps, right? There's the CEO that loves to go out and sell, but doesn't want to get involved in the operations or anything else. And then there's the CEO who loves to do the work, but hates the sales. Is that pretty correct, or am I off base there?
I think that's, I hate to say that there are some business owners out there that, I don't think anybody loves every step of the sales process. I just don't think it's, I don't know, maybe they do, but my experience shows that most people don't like the word sales, period. People just have such a negative connotation with it. And I think with business owners, two things happen. Either one, they move out of that position, right? But the company grows and they hire people, and those people can go out and sell for them. I think that's one. And then the second business owner is, doing everything themselves, and they have no choice but to sell, right? So, I think that the business owner should be the best salesman in the entire freaking group, because it's your business, it's your product, it's your service. You should be able to sell it better than anybody else. That's just my opinion.
And they usually do. I think where I find they struggle is, especially when you're a smaller business owner, let's face it, salespeople are very highly paid. And if you can't afford to pay a highly paid salesperson, you're not going to get the great people. And I know a lot of times people come, oh, I'm hiring a salesperson. And I'm like, how are you going to measure them? How are you going to compensate them? And make sure that your compensation doesn't create unintended consequences, because salespeople will do exactly what you pay them to do. And so be careful.
I think that's a good point. I'd like to come at this from a slightly different perspective. So I would argue that, let's just say you are you are a solopreneur and things are going okay, but you feel like you have that same thought that you said, I just can't afford to hire a salesperson. I would argue sometimes you can't afford not to hire a salesperson, because do you think, and here's the easiest example I can give you. We can't put 100% focus in two things. That's impossible mathematically, right? So business owners, typically we have our focus in multiple different places. And so it's super important to make sure that you're paying attention to each one of those areas. Well, you can't pay attention to 100% sales if you're doing 40 different things. So is that salesperson really going to cost you money, or are they going to make you money? Because I would argue that they're going to help you to make money, take you out of that position, right? And give you back some of your time. And maybe you don't need time, but I would argue that your business will grow the more time you, the owner, get.
And I don't doubt that salespeople make money. I think the issue comes up is that they either don't hire the right salesperson, right? Because sales is not just generic, right? There are different kinds of salespeople for different types of situations. They're all very different, and you need to match somebody's sales skill set to the type of sales that you need. Two, they may not have a training program, right? So they don't teach the salesperson, or the salesperson doesn't understand what the underlying need is and the problem being solved. So they're out there, trying to push square pegs through round holes. And so that creates a problem. So I think it's more just being a small business owner, it's hard to create a sales program per se, maybe, or even put the processes in place if you're too busy to do it all.
You're absolutely right. And that's exactly where I come in. And usually when I come in, that's when it is typically, it's not always a solopreneur, but it is lots of times, right? I've worked with tradesmen. I've worked with, everybody, you can name it in the trades. And I've worked with consultants that are out of the country that don't even speak English. So you're right. If they don't have a sales system, that's where they fail. If they don't set expectations for the salesperson, that's why they're failing. If the salesperson understands you need to go from point A to point B, as you mentioned, that's what they're going to do. But if you don't set the expectations that they need to go between point A and point B, then what do you expect, right? You probably expect a great result, but that would be unrealistic expectations because you haven't laid out what they're supposed to do.
That is so true. And I just want to say this because I think people need to realize money doesn't flow until the sale is made. So let's not forget that. Until somebody buys something from your company, there is no money coming in the front door. And so whether you want to call this a necessary evil or not, you've got to create some sort of a system to make this happen, whether it's web-based or people-based. And again, that really depends on what you're doing, what your client is, how expensive your products are, and how people in that particular industry buy. But you have to take the time to figure that out. So when you deal with these owners, what are some of the common things that you see?
Oh, boy. Well, some of the common things that I see is the lack of leadership. And that's a hard conversation to have, but usually I have to have that conversation. It's maybe they are trying to step away from the business and they just take their eye off the ball because they think their right-hand man is taking care of it. And he or she might be taking care of some of those things, but they're also typically burning up a lot of time, right? Because they're not monitored because they're the guy's right-hand man, been there since day one, so on and so forth. The other part is you're right, the training program. Most people don't have a training program, and you can't expect to have a sales force or a sales team and not train them on a regular basis. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest things that I find that people fail with is role play. It's, in my opinion, one of the most important things because if I'm role playing with you, I get real-time experience of what that is going to be like with no risk, right? And so I don't know how it is business owners don't think about this, but why would you want your salespeople practicing on your customers or your prospects? But that's what happens, unfortunately.
It is true. I spent my good portion of my life in sales. And so I know when we first started out, it was role play, role play, role play. And that was just what you did. You learned how to handle objections, learned what to say next, learned how to listen, which is, I think, a big problem. If your sales rep is talking 90% of the time, that's the problem. You got to be listening 90% of the time and offering the solution after you truly understand what the customer's needs, wants, and desires are. And then sales becomes easy, right? Because you've done your due diligence. You've actually listened to what their underlying problems are. And then if you can solve them, people are like, yes, please take my money.
That's right. But here's where a lot of people go wrong is it's called, I refer to this as active listening, and most people don't do this. Most salespeople listen, they listen to because they're waiting just to tell you whatever they want to tell you, which is usually self-centered, right? And so you lose the person. And you got to remember, and I'll just say this really quick, this is one of the most important things. People buy for their reasons, not yours. And if you're in sales and you're pitching for your reasons, you're not even pitching to the right person. You might as well just stop talking because people don't buy for your reasons. They buy for their reasons, right? So you can remember that's super important.
And that's true. And I've always said business is math and sales is also math. Within the sales cycle, it's, the number of contacts that you have. And again, everyone's different. It's the number of phone calls made, the number of doors knocked on, the number of presentations, appointments, presentations, and then all of that leads to closing and sales. And so mostly, once you get in a rhythm, you will have a good idea of what the numbers are in your business. And then it's just making sure that you're doing the metrics. You're making, if you know that it takes 100 calls to get 10 appointments, to get 5 presentations, to get 2 sales, well, then all you need to do is focus on the 100 calls and the whole system will flow nicely. And if you put a salesperson in there and you see the metrics aren't working, then you can figure out which step is the problem. And then you can now focus on fixing that step of the sales process and making corrections. So it's not that difficult.
It's not. You're right. I think a lot of people just, again, goes back to word sales. People just hate that freaking word. They just hate being called a salesperson. And, here's what I'll say about that is, salespeople are not snake oil salesmen. They're not out trying to swindle you out of money. Like, this is all bull crap from the old adage of movies and television shows. The truth of the matter is, why would I want to sell you something that's not going to benefit you and me? It doesn't benefit me to sell you a bogus product. So why would you do that? People do it all the time. I don't understand it because what do you mean? What's the lifetime value of that customer? Zero. No, there is no lifetime value. You've botched it right from the beginning. So.
And that's true. And I don't know if people understand the lifetime value of the customer. It's, how much are they going to buy through their whole journey with you? Some services or products are something you buy every month. Maybe there's something you buy once a year. And you have to look at your business and say, what type of business am I running? Is this something that people continue to come back for? And the more and more they come back, the higher and the higher the value of that client becomes. And so sometimes it's worth it to lose a little bit of money up front because you will make it up over time and in the back end. And that's why you see loss leaders, coupons, and all those types of things. But again, it comes back to understanding the math of your business so that you can do it appropriately. I just recently read a book, and I tell you, it's one of the books. It's very rare that I say this about a book. I hated this book. And the book is called Fanatical Prospecting, right?
Yeah. Jeff Blunt.
Jeff Blunt. It's one of those things, but he was so clear. He's like, we really struggle to pick up the phone. We really struggle to send the email. And if you'll just set the time aside and say, hey, Tuesday mornings and Thursdays is when I do this. Here's my list of things that people I need to reach out to. And you just do it. It changes the game. And that's what I do. I set my stuff up. I set up reminders and you just keep doing it. Little by little, it happens. But you got to fall in love with it.
Yeah, I agree. And look, there's some mundane tasks. And what you're talking about is it's not exciting. It's boring. It's not fun. And that's why people don't do it. Because it's not stimulating. It's just not. Sending a bunch of emails, making a bunch of phone calls. There's just nothing stimulating about that whatsoever. And so, it's one of the areas I think a lot of people, a lot of salespeople for sure, they drop the ball in that area. And that's my theory is that's the reason why. It doesn't really light us up. It doesn't get us excited, So for me, anyway, that's how it works.
So do you help people create their customer journey, what that looks like from beginning to end?
I do. That is certainly one part of it. So I do a couple of things. So I consult with companies, right? And then I also have my Sales CEO Syndicate coaching program, which is a group coaching program that people can join. The 90-day process. We go through all of my 9 steps, which takes them through, the whole sales process, customer journey, understanding who their customer is, all that stuff. And it's my process. I built it, and it works with, it sounds crazy to even say this, but it really does work with any product or service. I mean, unless you're doing e-commerce where there's not human beings involved, then it may not work with that. But outside of that, if there's human beings involved, it's going to work.
Do most people know why their clients are buying?
No. And they don't know why they're not buying. Right? And so look, it's not hard to figure this out. If I'm Reese's Pieces, sales are down, and there's and my competitor, I'm going to go to my competitor and see what people are saying. Why are my sales down? Because clearly that guy's taking part of my business. Why is that? Right? I can go in the comments and see. I can go in my own comments and see how bad I suck. Because people will tell you. right? I mean, they will. And if you're trying to shop another competitor, go look and see what people are saying. That'll tell you exactly what problem you need to solve, right?
You know, it's funny. I read the book on Sam Walton, and they said Sam spent more time in his competitors' stores than he did in his own. He was always asking, what do they know that I don't? And what can I learn from them based on the way they do things?
Great philosophy. Makes complete sense to me. Because if you think about it, that's where that's where you can find your problems. Unless, let's just say that you're a pest control company, right? And all you have to do is go and look at the other pest control companies, and you can see when people are like, giving them bad reviews or they're giving them glowing reviews, right? And you got to be careful about reviews too, because that could be stood up too, right? That could be, they could not be real. So you got to watch out for that. If you go to a company and they've got 900 5-star reviews, I mean, the chances of 900 people saying that they're 5 stars and nobody disagrees, probably not very good. So you might want to pay attention to that too. You got to be careful because you never know.
And that, unfortunately, is a game played on Amazon where they hand out coupons. Hey, leave us a good review and we'll give you a coupon. And so people leave a good review, even if they don't like it, because they want the coupon or whatever the offer is. So making sure that you do things appropriately, and that's not difficult. Now, one of the things that's probably true of entrepreneurs and salespeople is we all lack focus. Well, you might call it ADHD. Maybe it's something else. I know you're doing a ton of research in this area. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Sure. So just to give you a little bit of backstory, when I was 8 years old, I'm 44 now, I was diagnosed with ADHD and taking medicine, for 36 years. And up until about 4 or 5 months ago, I didn't really know. I mean, I knew the basics around ADHD, or what I thought was the basics. I mean, I was 8 when I got diagnosed. It's not like you ask a lot of questions. And even if you had have asked questions, there probably wouldn't have been answers then. So, in discovering this and understanding how my brain works. So it's executive function. We have some executive function issues. For example, we just mentioned about follow-up. One of the biggest things that I've found, and as you mentioned, I've interviewed 45 people on this subject. That follow-up is one of the biggest things that ADHD people don't do well. Follow through and follow up. I'll give you another example, and maybe this will resonate with some people listening. If you are a business owner or a salesperson, the majority of us do. Studies show that we have ADHD, whether it's diagnosed or undiagnosed. I don't know how they come up with the study. I'm just telling you what I read, and again, what I've spoken to a lot of people about. But what I found too, and maybe this has happened to you, Rocky. I don't know. You're in the middle of a conversation and you just blank out, like you don't know what happened. You just lose whatever it is. Does that ever happen to you?
It does. It happens to a lot of us. We lose our train of thought, right?
That's right.
Where was I? How did we get here?
Right. So, I don't know. Most people don't have that. Right? We think it's normal because it happens to us all the time. Now, I'm not suggesting that you're ADHD, but that is one of the traits for being ADHD is you just blank out or you forget whatever it is mid-sentence that you were talking about. And it seems crazy. And it may even seem like a cop-out to some people. But the truth of the matter is it's really been liberating for me to understand these things. And this is why, and I want to tie this together with sales and business. Now that I understand this, it's very easy for me to walk into a room and pick out the people that are just like me, right? I can watch their patterns and I can tell you if they're ADHD because they do the same stuff I do, right? In talking with people, again, I can ask just a couple of questions and I'll know based on the answers of the question. And so it's important because if you're my salesperson, Rocky, and you're dropping the ball on your follow-up, and I know that you're ADHD because I see the similar traits, I can put systems and processes in place where you won't drop the ball on the follow-up. And that's why I think this is important for both business owners and salespeople to know, because you can put things in place that'll prevent you from that dropping the ball and follow-up, for example.
So how would someone know if they or their salespeople have ADHD? What are the things that you're looking for?
Sure thing. So one of the things I ask, the question I just asked you, and I don't always get that answer. Sometimes I get that answer, but sometimes I don't. The other thing that I ask people is, how many times a day do you misplace something? Right, Rocky? How many times a day do you put your phone down or put something down and you're like, hey, don't like, I just had that thing in my hand. Does that happen to you?
I'm generally pretty good because I put things in places so that I don't have to remember where they are.
Right.
Maybe I've corrected.
You have. I mean, that is a great example of, so one of the things that, and to your point, one of the little, and I think it's so funny, is one of the things that I've heard repeatedly is, I think, don't put it down, put it away. Right. So and that works for me. Because I will set something, I'll take something out of the refrigerator, I'll use it, and then I'll set it on the counter and I'll just walk off. Because at that point, I'm done with it. My brain says this task is over, right? Unconsciously. And so if you just put it back where you got it, you don't have to go through those conversations about why you left it out, right? So does that give you a little bit of an idea of the things that I'm looking for, or the questions that I ask?
Yes, it does. It gives me a little bit of an idea. Now, I think the assumption here is that this is a lot more prevalent within salespeople and business owners compared to the general population.
Absolutely.
Do we know why that is?
Well, here's the theory. So business owners, as you know, we do a bunch of different things every day, regardless if we have a team or not. There's several different things every day, whether it be here, you doing the podcast, or whether it be the next client call, or whether it be an onboard, whatever it is, right? It's always, we just do a lot of different things throughout the day. And the theory is, and the studies show that that's why we become business owners, because we like to do a lot of different things throughout the day. And that's why, and we're good at things for short amounts of time. And it's not, and let me just clarify this, there is no ADD and ADHD. It's just ADHD. There is no two diagnosis at this point. So the reason I want to clarify that is people like, my age, your age, we started out as ADD and I never really knew the difference. And the H is in there for hyperactivity, but I think a lot of people believe that means that I'm bouncing off the walls and can't be still. And that's really not it. It's that we pay attention to everything, not just one thing. And so that's why it looks like we're not paying attention. But the reality is we're paying attention to the thing that lights our brain up, whether that be, something outside or whether that be something here on the screen. Doesn't matter, if that makes sense.
It does. And business owners are running around doing a million different things. And you have to. And so maybe that's what attracts it, is the fact that it's that kind of person who has that way of doing things that pulls them in, because we don't like to do just one thing and sit there. That would be boring and mundane for many of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the difference, though, between a business owner and probably a craftsman. So if you look at different kinds of business owners, there are different types of business owners. Some people are running their business doing whatever their passion might be, and it might be in something like that. Others are more about doing a million things and being totally involved in all parts of the business and kind of sharing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'd say the third person is the person that, starts out as, let's call it a tradesman or whatever, and they open up shop, and then they don't have the skills to run a business. They have the skills to do their trade, and they probably do it really well, which is why they made enough money to open their own shop. But, running a business is not the same thing as being being a plumber every day. So.
No, two totally different things. Very, very different. One or more of the craftsman who does his work, and running a business or being an entrepreneur is quite a bit different. Anything else on this topic that we should have covered today, but we didn't get a chance to?
No, I don't think so. I just think business owners, if they ask better questions of their salespeople, set expectations, you're going to have a better result. And that's just my opinion. And I see we're lacking a lot. So, yeah, I think that's it, brother.
And I think we like to put in scorecards in a business so that everybody has a number. They have clear expectations of what they're supposed to do, and we have an easy way to measure it. We just have to be careful that we're measuring the appropriate things, because people will do what you tell them to. And if you don't think through the consequences, you might be measuring the wrong things.
Yeah, I agree.
If people would like to learn more about you, find out about your services, where's the best place for them to go?
So they can go either to my website, which is just my first and last name, CoreyBerrier.com. And, or you could follow me on practically all the social channels, exactly the same, at Corey Berrier, and they'll be in the show notes. I'll also send you a link to my Sales CEO Syndicate group. You can put that in there as well. The book will be out in a couple of months, so stay tuned on that one.
And what's the title of the book?
I have not decided yet.
Okay. Still in process.
Still in process.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. Make sure you have good metrics to determine what your leads, follow-up, and closing ratios look like. This will let you know where in the sales process you have a problem. Be careful what you incentivize, because people will do what you pay them to do. And too often we have unintended consequences to incentives. Also, sales reps are used to compensation plans changing every year, so don't be afraid to update yours. Create a system to take your customers on a journey to solve their problems and want to work with you. Sales is what drives cash, and without it, nothing else matters. At the end of the day, the money doesn't flow until the sale is made. Let's just make sure that each and every sale is profitable.
If you want a done-for-you service, you can hire us as your chief profitability officers. You have your own area of expertise, and maybe you want to spend more of your time doing what you love. We only work with a handful of clients, so they all get our full attention. We work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on our calendar for a good fit conversation to see if we're the right people to support you and how we can help you.
Hey, it's Rocky. Don't forget to check out my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we talk about life beyond money and how to live that ultimate life and become a better leader in your company. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.